I didn't want to write a book, but for the first time, I am going to write a book about my experience with project execution in Africa.
I won't do this kind of huge refinery project again. You can see, I told somebody, doing this refinery is what actually, gave me my gray hair.
What would make Dangote say a thing like this? We'll find out in this video. Dangote Refinery, with a capacity of 650,000 barrels per day, is the largest single-train refinery in the world. This capacity allows it to produce a variety of refined petroleum products, including gasoline, diesel, jet fuel, and kerosene. Out of this total, the refinery is expected to refine up to 104,000 barrels per day of diesel, 90,000 barrels per day of gasoline, and significant amounts of other products, such as aviation fuel and polypropylene. This massive output is intended to meet Nigeria's domestic fuel demand and allow for the export of refined products, positioning Dangote Refinery as a major player in the global petroleum market.
Describe this project, honestly, it takes guts, it takes a vision, and it's the vision of one man, which is absolutely extraordinary to witness it. And it's really a vision of one person. To bring this to life, it's really a wonder of the world.
So why is it being hampered by the Nigerian government? Hello again, and welcome to Na TV. If you're a returning viewer, it's nice to see you again. But if you're new here, please like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you'll be updated when we post a future video, and leave a comment below. It's always a delight hearing from you. In this video, we look at the earlier disagreement between the Nigerian government and Dangote Refinery, the obstacles the refinery faced, and allegations leveled against it by the Nigerian government, including how Dangote overcame them all, thriving in the process. We've got a lot of grounds to cover and not enough time, so let's jump right in. For those of you who didn't know, Dangote Refinery was built and is owned by the world's richest black billionaire, Aliko Dangote, from Nigeria, with the aim of refining Nigeria's crude, which also aims to prevent Nigeria from having to export crude out of the country and import refined petroleum products after the fact. For many years, Nigeria has struggled to refine petroleum domestically, often having to rely on foreign petroleum imports, a disgrace to any crude-owning nation. Previous presidents have promised to fix the abandoned local refineries, but none have actually come through with the promise. Fast forward to 2016, when Aliko Dangote proposed to build a local refinery that was initially priced at $9 billion and later ballooned to almost $20 billion before completion. In 2023, before the Buhari administration ended, the refinery was inaugurated, and by early 2024, it became fully operational. This development was met with positivity by Nigerians, who hoped it'll alleviate the cost of fuel per the liter, but the Nigerian government did not see it the same way. Nigeria's daily crude oil production ranges between 1.3 to 2 million barrels per day, while its domestic refining capacity ranges between 55,000 and 70,000 barrels per day. Meanwhile, its daily fuel demand is about 375,000 barrels per day, meaning it is refining far less than it is consuming. Enter Dangote's refinery. Dangote's refinery, with a production capacity of 650,000 barrels per day, aims to meet and exceed this local demand, reducing the country's dependence on fuel imports.
The 650,000 barrels per day that we've done is the largest single train, not only in Africa, in the world. And we just wanted to make a point, and which we have now, achieved.
This volume of crude oil is more than sufficient to meet Nigeria's domestic petrol consumption requirements. There are two things here. The first being that Nigeria produces more than Dangote can refine in a day, and the second is that Dangote refines more than Nigeria can consume in a day. Both of these things are a positive for Nigeria, as it can sell the remainder of the raw crude that Dangote cannot refine, and can also sell the excess of the refined petroleum products that Nigeria cannot consume. In both cases, Nigeria would be making a profit, and eliminating the need for Nigeria to ever have to import petroleum. This is a win for the country. So why was the Nigerian government giving him such a headache? The refinery faced allegations such as claims that it aimed to monopolize the market, being the sole functioning refinery at that capacity. The second allegation was regarding the poor quality of the fuel being produced. The third accusation was the high cost of the refined product. And finally, the next obstacle the refinery had to deal with was NNPC wanting to be the sole buyers and distributor of the refined petroleum.
In a quick turn of events, Africa's richest man, Aliko Dangote, has put up his new refinery for sale. This is coming after a few days of back and forth between him and the government regulatory agency that claimed that products from his refinery are substandard.
The first three accusations led to the government refusing to do business with the refinery, but this didn't deter Dangote, who ignored the government and went into business internationally. In April 2024, Dangote Refinery went into business with other West African countries like Togo, Ghana, and Senegal, exporting 6 cargoes of jet fuel and kerosene. This transaction was a major success for the refinery, leading to ongoing business between these West African nations and the refinery. In May of 2024, Dangote Refinery made its first shipment of jet fuel to the Netherlands. The vessel Doric Breeze transported 45,000 metric tons of jet fuel from the refinery in Lagos, Nigeria, to Rotterdam, Netherlands. This marked a significant milestone as the refinery expanded its export capabilities to international markets. At this point, the refinery faced challenges in securing enough local crude oil to meet its refining capacity, prompting it to source crude from international markets, including Europe. This move was necessary to sustain production due to Nigeria's inconsistent oil production levels, which have struggled to meet internal needs. This move also enabled the refinery to tap into the European market, where demand for refined products like jet fuel and diesel has increased following the EU's sanctions on Russian energy supplies. During this time, Cepsa, a Spanish energy company, was awarded a portion of a 120,000 metric ton tender to supply jet fuel. This deal allowed the refinery to further establish its refinery as a significant player in the global market for refined products, especially jet fuel, diesel, and gasoline. The refinery also went into partnership with British Petroleum, a multinational oil and gas company headquartered in London, England. BP was also awarded a portion of metric ton tender to supply jet fuel in Europe. To put this deal in perspective, the average price of jet fuel is around $86 per barrel. Prices vary by region. For instance, in Europe, the price is slightly higher at approximately $209 per barrel. In June 2024, accusations surfaced from the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, claiming that Dangote was attempting to monopolize the market by calling for a suspension of fuel imports. The regulator's chief warned against this, saying Nigeria was not ready to end imports because it would put national energy security at risk if only one refinery was operational.
You know, we are always the first mover. You know, we always move first, then other people will follow. And we have never, ever, whether consciously or unconsciously, stop anybody from doing the same business that we are doing.
Energy experts criticized NMDPRA's public statements, saying the issue should have been handled discreetly. Later, the refinery would be accused of producing substandard fuel that damaged car engines, but the billionaire would eventually take to the press to refute these allegations, stating that the petrol that Nigeria imports is the substandard one and the powers that be know this, but import it anyway, not caring for its effect on the vehicles of the population. He demonstrates the quality of his product in this video.
You can see that this is the sample. This is the sample of the petrol. It might be a little bit, you see it like a different color, but that's the real this thing, So you are now going to have, good petrol where the engines of your vehicles will last longer. There are some videos of 1974 which will have fuel queues, and those fuel queues that are still here. This will eliminate all fuel queues in Nigeria.
Also, How can his product be of substandard quality if it already meets international requirements? Our research shows that Dangote Refinery has reportedly complied with the European Jet A1 fuel standards. The refinery's jet fuel exports, including the shipment to the Netherlands, adheres to stringent international aviation fuel requirements, including those of the European Union. Jet A1 fuel must meet specific standards for composition, freezing point, and combustion quality to be accepted in Europe. The successful export of jet fuel from the refinery to the EU market, including to companies like Cepsa and BP, is a strong indication that Dangote's production aligns with these regulatory standards. The compliance with these standards is vital for entering competitive global markets, especially since European markets require high-quality fuel that meets environmental and safety regulations. Further expanding to the international market, Dangote Refinery recently added Brazilian crude to its feedstock and declared that it'd start purchasing crude from African producers in a bid to ramp up capacity. Despite this, the Nigerian government continued its feud with the billionaire. During this feud, the Nigerian people rallied behind the refinery, calling for the government to offer its support. Akinwumi Adesina, president of the African Development Bank, defended Dangote's refinery, expressing concern that disparaging the refinery is detrimental to Nigeria's economic interests, particularly given the scale of investment made by Dangote. Adesina argued that it sends a negative message to potential investors about the country's investment climate.
This whole disparaging of Dangote is uncalled for. It is self-defeating, and it is very bad for Nigeria. Who will want to come and invest in a country that disparages and undermines its own largest investor? Investing is tough. Pettiness is easy. It sadly sends a signal that the price for sacrificing for Nigeria is to get sacrificed.
Peter Obi emphasized the importance of supporting the Dangote Refinery, stating,
Dangote Refinery should be fully supported, not vilified. The recent conflicts between Dangote Industries and some government agencies are deeply troubling. This issue transcends political affiliations and personal grievances. It is fundamentally about Nigeria's economy, future, and the well-being of its citizens. The refinery is too vital to fail and must not be hindered, considering its crucial role in our national welfare.
Dangote Refinery's expansion into the global market shook the international petroleum market. An OPEC report indicates that the refinery could significantly disrupt Europe's oil economy, particularly affecting the Northwest Europe gas oil market. This forecast highlights how the refinery has already started influencing crude flows and the pricing of refined products in Europe, positioning itself as a major new player among global suppliers capable of challenging the traditional market dynamics. OPEC suggests that as the refinery scales its production and broadens its feedstock sources, it will increase pressure on established suppliers in Europe. The implications of this development are considerable. The refinery has already begun sourcing a portion of its crude from the US, highlighting Nigeria's shift from being solely an exporter of crude oil to refining domestically. This transition could enhance Nigeria's trade balance and its role in the global energy landscape, potentially reducing reliance on imported refined products. So, according to this report, this is a good thing for the country, yet the Nigerian government didn't see it as such. There has been speculation that this is due to the reduction of NNPC's shareholding in Dangote Refinery, although we at NNTV find this to be unfounded rumors. You see, during the construction of the refinery, Dangote and NNPC had struck a deal for NNPC to provide some funds, and in return will lay claim to 20% of the refinery, but NNPC only provided fund enough for 7.2% of the refinery. They were supposed to meet up with the remainder of the funding in 2023, but they defaulted on the agreement, which Dangote Refinery was more than willing to extend to June of 2024, which again NNPC defaulted on, stating that they were happy with their 7.2% holdings.
The agreement we had with the NNPC was actually 20%, but they didn't pay the balance of the money as at last year. Then we gave them another extension up till June this year, but they later said they would remain with what they have already paid, which is 7.2%. So NNPC and the government own only 7.2% of the refinery. For me, that is okay.
In July 2024, the Nigerian government intervened in the growing dispute between Dangote and the regulatory bodies. Accusations of monopoly were taken seriously due to NNPC's shareholding reduction in the refinery. Dangote, defending his business model, emphasized that the refinery added value to local raw materials and was not simply a monopoly. By September 2024, Dangote began selling refined petroleum products to the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited. This move was initially seen as a positive step toward addressing fuel shortages. However, tensions rose when NNPCL publicly claimed that Dangote was charging an exorbitant price of 898 naira per litre of premium motor spirit. Dangote's company refuted these claims, stating that pricing was based on global benchmarks and that the stock of crude oil had been procured in dollars and the refinery needed to make a profit due to the dollar-naira exchange rate going up, thus making the fuel price justifiable. Around this period, NNPCL insisted on being the sole local buyer from Dangote, a move that didn't sit well with other local oil companies. This sparked concerns about monopolistic control of distribution. Independent marketers were reportedly being excluded from purchasing fuel directly from the refinery, raising questions about transparency and competition. These practices, critics argue, could prevent Nigerians from reaping the benefits of lower fuel prices. Another success for the refinery was when the Nigerian government granted Dangote exclusive rights as the sole supplier of aviation fuel to local airlines. This move is expected to stabilize fuel prices for the aviation sector, reducing the impact of international crude oil price fluctuations on Nigerian airlines, and is part of a broader effort to localize and strengthen domestic energy supply chains. Despite the challenges faced by the refinery, Dangote has managed to subvert obstacles by maintaining transparency about his refinery's operations, improving fuel quality, and pushing back against government monopoly accusations. He has also engaged with government stakeholders to resolve disputes, though tensions with regulatory bodies and NNPC persist. This complex relationship between Dangote and the Nigerian government reflects broader issues within the country's petroleum sector, where control over pricing and distribution remains a contentious issue. Dangote's refinery enhances transparency from NNPC by providing a clear framework for tracking the income generated from refined products. With Dangote exporting refined fuels, it becomes easier for NNPC to monitor and report on revenue streams from domestic refining activities, as the refinery's production and sales figures can be independently verified. This increases accountability regarding how much crude is supplied by NNPC and the subsequent revenue generated. Additionally, the competition created by Dangote's refinery can encourage NNPC to improve its operational efficiency and financial reporting practices, ultimately fostering greater transparency in the oil sector. Also, there is job creation among other value addition.
This will also make sure that there is consistent supply to the market. It will also bring the real demand of PMS, no paper transaction. It will also help to make sure that it corrects this distortion of the naira, bring stability to the naira, bring growth, development, and prosperity. So we want to thank Nigerians for being behind us to be where we are today. But this is a very, very historic moment.
But what gives me joy is the self-sufficiency and the jobs we are creating, and also we are creating a circular economy.
So, there you have it, folks. How Dangote Refinery defeated the Nigerian government at their own game. What opinions do you have about their feud? Please leave your comments below. And until next time, friends, please stay safe out there in the streets. Peace.